Serving people, conserving fish and wildlife. At the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources, we take those words to heart. Our Wildlife Division is a team of professionals committed to the conservation of Kentucky's amazing array of wildlife and the habitats they depend on. We are wildlife biologists, land managers, technicians, administrative specialists, mapping experts, all highly trained specialists who can serve the Commonwealth's nearly 1,000 wildlife species, from the wetlands of Fulton County to the mountains of Pike County. Wildlife is vital to our quality of life in many ways, ranging from healthful fun to healthy food. Every year, more than 1 million people participate in wildlife watching, hunting, and trapping in Kentucky. Wildlife recreation benefits our state economy to the tune of $2 billion each year, supporting 23,000 jobs. The Wildlife Division's two primary goals are science-based wildlife conservation and providing sustainable opportunities for their enjoyment. The strategies we employ to achieve these goals include game management, conservation of rare and declining species through the Kentucky Wild Program, public lands habitat management and access, private lands technical assistance, invasive species abatement, and wildlife disease monitoring and response. Game management programs include big game, such as deer, elk, and bear, wild turkeys, waterfowl and other migratory birds, and small game, such as squirrels, rabbits, bobwhite quail, and ruffed grouse. Many game species were once depleted to local extinction, or nearly so, by the early 1900s, but are now thriving due to our historic restoration programs. For example, white-tailed deer once numbered as few as 1,000 animals statewide, but stocking from source populations, coupled with careful harvest regulations, have allowed Kentucky's deer herd to grow to nearly 1 million strong. Similarly, elk were once eliminated from Kentucky's landscape through habitat loss and overharvest, but our ambitious restocking program that started in 1997 with 1,500 elk from 7 western states now has resulted in a thriving population, today with thousands of elk in 16 southeastern counties. Your purchase of Kentucky hunting licenses and permits supports game management programs and helps us obtain related federal grants to conserve Kentucky's wildlife and habitats. The Kentucky Wild Program conserves a wide array of species that aren't hunted, fished, or trapped. These include songbirds and raptors, reptiles like turtles, lizards, and snakes, amphibians such as salamanders, toads, and frogs, and freshwater mussels, fishes, and butterflies. These species contribute to a healthy environment for people and wildlife. Our Kentucky Wild team raise and restore mussels and small fishes that provide clean water, develop quality habitat for birds and insects that pollinate our food crops, and monitor and protect bats that help control insect pests. You can support these efforts by joining the Kentucky Wild Program today. Public lands protect important habitats for wildlife and provide public recreational access for hunting, wildlife watching, and other compatible uses. Although the department owns less than 200,000 acres of wildlife management areas, we're able to provide access to over 1 million acres of public lands through partnership agreements with other landowners such as government agencies, timber and coal companies, and private individuals. The Wildlife Division enhances habitats on many of these areas through plantings, prescribed burning, forest improvements, wetlands creation, and placement of animal nesting structures. Private lands assistance is available to owners of farms and other private property. Over the past 3 decades, our biologists have worked with about 2,000 different landowners and walked over some 2 million acres of private land, making habitat improvement recommendations and developing management plans. Our biologists have helped the U.S. Department of Agriculture to implement millions of dollars worth of habitat practices to benefit Kentucky's quail and rabbits, butterflies and other pollinators, songbirds, waterfowl, and other wetland wildlife. Abating threats that invasive animals and plants pose to our native wildlife resources is another important conservation strategy of the Wildlife Division. Staff have improved living conditions for wild animals on thousands of acres in Kentucky through the eradication of invasive plants, such as tall fescue grass and bush honeysuckle shrubs. Wild pigs are an invasive animal that cause costly damage to farmlands, threaten livestock and wildlife with diseases, and directly compete with native species. The Wildlife Division staff has helped landowners remove hundreds of wild pigs on private land, thus minimizing a threat to our native wildlife. Monitoring and responding to wildlife diseases is also a priority for the Wildlife Division. This conservation strategy includes preventing the introduction of new wildlife diseases, as well as controlling diseases whenever possible. Since 2002, the Wildlife Division has tested over 30,000 deer and elk to monitor these herds for the occurrence of chronic wasting disease, or CWD. In short, the Wildlife Division's skilled and dedicated staff cares for the whole spectrum of wildlife that calls Kentucky home, so they can thrive now and in the future. Passionate and mission-focused, that's who we are. Serving people, conserving fish and wildlife, that's what we do.